For this video I thought I'd just turn the camera on while I replace the bridge on my Jazzmaster. I'm just going to be talking a little bit about this guitar and why I need to change the bridge. So if you're a Jazzmaster player, I hope this video will be moderately interesting viewing. If you're not a Jazzmaster player, I imagine it will be pretty boring, so there are other videos available to watch on YouTube. But anyway, this is my Jazzmaster. It is an American, let me get this right, an American 65 vintage Jazzmaster, which I think is what Fender now call their vintage reissue guitars. So basically it's a really nice faithful reproduction of a 1965 Jazzmaster. I've had this guitar about a year or so. Always fancied owning and playing a Jazzmaster. I finally got around to buying one, and the reason I went for this particular guitar is, as I say, it's a faithful reproduction of a vintage guitar. Obviously I'd love to have a real vintage guitar, but those are just a little bit out of my price range at the moment, and this seemed like the next best thing. It sort of stays very true to the spirit of the original Jazzmaster. I think it's got a lot of the same character to it, unlike some of the other Jazzmaster models, I think. So overall I've been really pleased with it. It's a super cool looking guitar. It sounds great, it plays great, with one exception, and that is the bridge. And something they don't tell you when you're buying a new Jazzmaster is that the bridges on these things are notoriously problematic, and for want of a better word, this bridge is just a pretty shitty piece of engineering, I think. So what many players end up doing is replacing the bridge on these guitars, and I actually learned about this the hard way. I was playing a gig late last year, and it was the very first gig where I used the Jazzmaster, and I was quite excited about the gig, excited to be using this cool new guitar. We did the sound check and it sounded fantastic, really good, got a really good tone happening. Was very excited to be playing the show, and literally the very first song of the set, and I started noticing that some of the high notes I was playing, I was going for some high bends, and some of the notes were just choking a little bit, and the guitar wasn't playing as nicely as it should have been playing, or as nicely as it was playing in the sound check. And I thought, yeah, that's a little bit odd, but continued with the set. And then the second song in the set, I started to notice that a few more of these notes were choking. Some of the chords I was playing were starting to sound a little bit funny and thin, and I couldn't understand what was going on. So I looked at the guitar and I could see that this side of the bridge had started to sink and to collapse inside the guitar, go in towards the body of the guitar, and not much I could do about it at the time because I didn't have a spare guitar with me, so I just had to sort of continue, and it went from bad to worse really. So that by the end of the set I was literally reduced to about 7 or 8 notes on the low E string that would actually function properly. The rest were all sort of fretting out and all kinds of weird things going on. So it turned into the gig from hell really. Somehow I survived it, and was really annoyed. I couldn't figure out what the hell had been going on. So I got the guitar home, did a bit of googling around, and it turns out that this is actually a very common problem with Jazzmaster bridges. And what had actually happened is that just through playing the guitar fairly vigorously and using the whammy bar, the vibrations had been enough to make the screw that supports the bridge unscrew itself, and for the bridge to sink inside the guitar. I didn't think that something like that could actually happen, but apparently it does, particularly when you're playing kind of hard, and which I do usually do in gigs. Maybe that's why it didn't happen before that point. If I'm just playing sort of around the house, I don't usually sort of dig in quite so hard. I might not be using the whammy so vigorously, so that was why it happened during the gig and not another time. So what I decided to do is to get a replacement bridge. I think one other solution would have been to use some kind of thread locking glue on the screws that support the bridge. Apparently that works quite well to stop it moving around, but in the end I bought a brand new bridge. A, because I hope it will stop this bridge sinking thing, and also I hope, going to remedy some of the other common problems you get with Jazzmaster bridges. Things like the rattling of the intonation screws. The strings sometimes have a tendency to pop out of their slots when you're playing hard, so I hope it will solve that problem as well. So sent off for this bridge. The one I went for is it's made by a British company called Staytrem. Sent off for this a couple of days ago. It arrived very promptly. There you go. And I went for this bridge in the end. The other option that a lot of people swear by is the Mastery bridge, which I very nearly bought, but for a couple of reasons I went for the Staytrem in the end. The price of the thing. I mean, this was £60, which I thought was quite expensive for a few pieces of metal. But the Mastery bridge is over twice that, which I thought was a little bit more than I wanted to pay. And the Staytrem has got some very good sort of write-ups and reviews online as well. And I guess the other reason is I think I prefer the look of this Staytrem. It's got a look which is, for me, better suited to a vintage style guitar. That the Mastery looks a little bit over-engineered and over-designed for my personal taste. So this is the Staytrem bridge which I'm going to use. I'm just going to take the strings off on this guitar, put the new bridge in, and see what happens. So I've just loosened off the strings and I'm going to remove the old bridge. Just get the strings out of the way, and it just lifts out like that. Here's the new bridge, the Staytrem, and I have to say it feels really solidly made. It's quite a heavy piece of metal. It's just going to sit in those two holes in the guitar on those two screws. Notice that it's got little plastic bits at the top of those screws, and those are there. They're designed to prevent this whole bridge sinking phenomenon. Also got little plastic washers next to the intonation adjustment screws, which should stop those rattling. Nice deep slots cut into the bridge saddles as well, which I hope will prevent the strings sort of popping out of their slots. Also notice that it's got a preset radius on it. This is a 7.25 inch radius bridge, so that's already fixed, and there's no need to fiddle about with adjusting the height of each saddle individually. So let me put this in. Didn't come with any instructions, so I'm hoping it's going to be nice and simple. I'm not really that adept when it comes to sort of repairing and fixing my guitars, but I should be able to handle this, I think, if it's quite straightforward. I'm just going to slot the bridge into these two holes like that, and it's designed to kind of rock back and forth a little bit as you use the whammy bar like that. So that all looks okay so far. I'm just going to get the strings back on now. So we're looking pretty good so far. The new bridge is in position. I've tightened up the strings. Now I'm just going to have a bit of a play around with the height of the bridge, which can be adjusted with this Allen key. You can just slot that into the holes on either side of the bridge to raise or lower it. Though I have to say that as it stands, the setup and the action is already looking pretty good, so it probably won't need that much in the way of adjustment. If I were a professional guitar setup guy, I'd probably be taking some very precise measurements at this point, but since I'm not, I'm probably just going to mess about until it feels and sounds good. I just want to get the action as low as possible without any of the notes choking and without there being any excessive buzzing. So I'm just going to have a bit of a play around with that. So just having a bit of a play around, and I think I'm pretty happy with the bridge height now. The one other thing that I might just take a look at is the intonation, which again is pretty good without any adjustment whatsoever, but I think I could probably get that just a little bit closer. That's easily done. It's using the same Allen key that you used for the bridge height adjustment. Just stick that in the little screws at the back of the bridge there to move the saddles back and forth to set the intonation. So I'm just going to have a play around with that as well. Then I think I'll be ready to plug in and put the new bridge through its paces. So let's get plugged in. there we go. I'm really pleased so far. Despite that little bit of abuse, the bridge still appears to be in exactly the same height and position as when I set it up. There are no annoying buzzes or rattles or anything like that. No matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get the strings to pop out of their bridge saddle slots either. So it's performing well so far. It was nice and easy to set up and install as well, which is always a bonus. And I think if someone like me can install the bridge, who's quite challenged when it comes to matters of DIY guitar setup and maintenance, then I think anybody can probably have a go at doing it. Obviously, I've yet to put the guitar through a live gig, but I think I've got a gig coming up in the next week or so where I might well take this guitar along and see how it fares.